My name is Sarah, and this is my story. I'm married to Tom, a kind-hearted man with a smile that could light up the darkest room. We've been married for 4 years, but it feels like we've been together for a lifetime. We met at a local coffee shop, bumped into each other by accident, and the rest, as they say, is history. But there's one part of my life that feels more like a recurring bad dream. Martha, Tom's mom. Martha is, well, she's a character. Since we got married, she's had this habit of dropping by unannounced. It was annoying at first, but now it's just part of our daily routine. She's got something to say about everything and anything I do, and it's never praise. It was just another Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen, the aroma of roasted chicken filling the air, setting the table for 3. Tom was on his way home, and Martha, of course, decided to pop in. "Chicken, Sarah? Again?" Martha walked into the kitchen, her voice dripping with disappointment. "If it were me, I'd have made pork. Tom loves my pork roast." I tried to keep my cool. "Tom likes chicken too, Martha, and it's healthier." She clicked her tongue, moving closer to inspect the salad. "Lettuce and tomatoes. How original." Just then, Tom walked in. "Something smells good," he said, wrapping his arms around me. He kissed my cheek before noticing his mother. "Mom, what a surprise." "Not a good one, apparently," Martha muttered, eyeing the chicken like it had personally offended her. Tom caught my eye, a silent plea there. "Be nice to her," it said. "She's had a tough year." I sighed, the fight draining out of me. "Dinner's ready. Let's eat." We sat down, and the usual happened. Tom talked about his day, I chimed in with stories of my own, and Martha found a way to criticize every single thing. When Tom complimented the chicken, saying it was just as good as any pork roast, I saw Martha's lips thin, but for once, she kept quiet. That night, as Tom and I cleaned up and Martha watched her favorite game show in the living room, I wondered how many more dinners like this I could take. It wasn't the chicken or the pork that was the problem. It was the constant feeling of not being good enough for the woman who mattered most to Tom. But as I looked at Tom, who was whistling while drying the dishes, I knew I'd endure it, for him. Because that's what you do for love, right? You put up with a little rain to get to the rainbow. Or in my case, a little bit of Martha to get to the rest of my life with Tom. If life were a straight road, mine had taken a turn into a lane with speed bumps named Martha. When I found out I was pregnant, Tom and I were over the moon. But joy comes with its own set of challenges. My job as an event planner was demanding, with hours as unpredictable as Martha's mood swings. So I made the tough choice to step down to a less taxing role, which unfortunately meant a smaller paycheck. It was a Sunday morning, and I was flipping pancakes, humming to myself, feeling content. Tom was reading at the table, and then, as if on cue, Martha walked in, her presence immediately changing the air. "So, Sarah, how does it feel to contribute less to the household?" Martha didn't waste any time, going straight for the jugular as she poured herself a cup of coffee. I flipped another pancake, choosing my words carefully. "It feels responsible, Martha. I need to take care of myself and the baby." "Babies don't need money, huh?" "Interesting logic," she retorted, taking a sip and making a face. "This coffee is weak." Tom looked up, his brow furrowed. "Mom, that's not fair. Sarah is doing what's best for our family." Martha scoffed. "Oh, please. When I was pregnant, I worked until the day I gave birth, and I made sure to contribute equally." I plated the pancakes and sat down, trying to keep the peace. "Times are different now, Martha, and I'm still working, just not as much." She shook her head, her disapproval as clear as the sunny day outside. "You just make sure you don't get too comfortable. Money doesn't grow on trees." The conversation hung heavy over breakfast. Even the pancakes tasted like tension. Tom squeezed my hand under the table, a silent show of support. But as I watched Martha pick at her food with a sour expression, I knew this was far from over. I was bracing myself for a long road ahead, full of Martha's backhanded comments. But in my heart, I knew the peace of mind from a lesser-stressed pregnancy was worth any pay cut. And I'd do it all over again if it meant a healthier me and a healthier baby. Life has a funny way of flipping the script. Before Jamie, my home office was a place of tranquility. Now it's a circus, and I'm the juggler. Working from home while taking care of a newborn is like trying to thread a needle on a roller coaster. But it's our roller coaster, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. One Wednesday afternoon, as I was knee-deep in emails and baby burp cloths, the doorbell rang. I knew without looking. It was Martha. "Just a minute," I called out, balancing Jamie on one hip and my laptop on the other. When I opened the door, there she stood, purse and judgment in hand. "You look like you could use some help," she remarked, pushing past me into the living room. I followed her, settling Jamie into his bouncer. "I've got it under control, Martha. It's just a busy day." She peered at my laptop screen, then at Jamie, who was trying to decide if he was hungry or sleepy. "Doesn't seem like it. You know, when Tom was a baby, I made sure everything was spotless, and he was always my focus." I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to defend my scattered living room. "Well, times have changed, Martha. Working from home is a balancing act." She sat down, watching me like a hawk. "Does Tom know how chaotic it is here?" I sat across from her, trying to maintain a sense of calm. "Tom understands. He knows I'm doing my best." Martha tutted, looking around with thinly veiled disapproval. I suppose your best will have to do." I wanted to tell her that my best was more than enough, that I was a good mom and a good worker. But with Jamie starting to fuss, I didn't have the energy for another round with her. As she left, Martha's parting words were, "Remember, Sarah, a mother's place is with her child, not with her work." I closed the door gently, leaning against it for a moment. Her words stung, but as I picked up Jamie and he smiled, all gums and drool, I knew I was doing all right. Work can wait. These moments with Jamie cannot. And if that means my living room is a bit messy, so be it. It's our mess, and it's perfect. 4 years into our marriage, and life had settled into a rhythm, albeit one constantly interrupted by the discordant notes of my mother-in-law, Martha's visits. The first year of Jamie's life was a whirlwind of diapers, late-night lullabies, and the struggle of maintaining a career from the confines of our home. Now, as I stepped back into the professional arena, my heart ached with the separation from my little boy, but also fluttered with the excitement of reclaiming a piece of my identity. The office was just as I remembered, yet everything felt different. Colleagues welcomed me back with smiles and gentle inquiries about Jamie. My desk, once a shrine to efficiency, now also housed a colorful array of drawings and a photo of Jamie's toothless grin. Each email I sent was punctuated by thoughts of him, each project plan a reminder of the plans I had for his future. Arriving home that evening felt like crossing a finish line. I was greeted by the music of Jamie's giggles as Tom, ever the doting father, flew him around the living room like an airplane. They were in their own world, and for a moment, I was an outsider looking in. It was a pang of jealousy only a mother returning to work could understand. Before I could even kick off my shoes, the door swung open and Martha made her entrance. "Sarah, back to work I see. And Jamie?" she asked, her tone laced with accusation. "He's been at daycare, and he's doing great," I said, trying to keep my voice light as I took Jamie into my arms. She raised an eyebrow, a silent judgment I knew all too well. "Daycare? At his age? I never would have." Tom intervened. "Mom, the world's different now. We're doing what's right for our family." Martha huffed, moving to the kitchen. "Well, I hope you know what you're doing." The conversation hung in the air, a stalemate of generational differences. Tom and I exchanged a weary look. This was our normal, a delicate dance of defending our choices. Dinner was a quiet affair, Jamie's high chair an island of cheer in a sea of unspoken tensions. Martha barely touched her food, her disapproval a palpable presence at the table. Afterward, as Tom put Jamie to bed, I found myself alone with Martha. "Martha, I know you don't agree with our choices, but I need you to trust that we're doing what's best for Jamie," I said, clearing the plates. She looked at me, her eyes softening for just a second. "Sarah, I just want what's best for him too." "I know, and I appreciate that. But best can mean different things," I replied, hoping to bridge the gap between us. She nodded slowly. "I suppose you're right, but it doesn't mean I have to like it." As I finished the chores and sat down to catch up on some work, the house quieted down. I mulled over the day's events, the juggle between professional and personal, the constant scrutiny from Martha. Each thought was a thread in the complex tapestry of modern motherhood. Over the next few weeks, I found my stride, balancing deadlines with daycare drop-offs, boardroom meetings with bedtime stories. I was proving to myself, more than to Martha, that I could excel at both roles. But her words lingered like a shadow, a reminder of the tightrope I walked daily. One evening, as I watched Jamie sleep, his chest rising and falling in peaceful slumber, I realized that this was my why. The long hours, the missed cuddles, they were all for this moment of tranquility, for the future we were building. And as I turned off the light, a sense of determination settled in my heart. Martha might never understand, but that was okay. This was our life, our choices, our grind. And with Tom and Jamie by my side, I was ready for all of it. When Tom and I approached Martha about watching Jamie while I worked, she accepted with a strange spark in her eye. "Of course, I'll watch him. A grandmother's place is with her grandchild," she had said, almost triumphantly. The first day, I left Jamie with her, armed with a list of instructions and a kiss on his forehead. "If you need anything, call me," I reminded her, feeling the familiar tug at my heart as I walked out the door. "Sarah, go to work. We'll be fine," Martha said, her voice tinged with the confidence that only grandmothers possess. But as the days passed, her enthusiasm began to wane. Each evening, I returned to a litany of complaints. "He wouldn't nap. He's too fidgety. He throws his food," she'd report with exasperation. One evening, as I handed her a cup of tea, I ventured cautiously, "Martha, if it's too much, we can look into a daycare for Jamie." She set her cup down with a clatter. "No, I don't trust those places. I'll watch him." "But you seem so tired, and I hate seeing you like this," I replied, concern lacing my words. Martha's eyes met mine, stubborn as ever. "I said no, Sarah. I'm his grandmother. It's my job to endure. And who better to look after him than family?" Her refusal was a familiar dance, one where my suggestions were met with resistance, my concerns with cold rebuttals. "Okay, Martha, if that's what you want," I acquiesced, knowing that arguing was futile. Each morning, I left Jamie in her care, my heart squeezed tight with worry. Each evening, I returned to find Martha a little more worn, a little less patient, but always insistent that she would continue caring for him. Her resilience was as admirable as it was frustrating. I watched her pour her love into Jamie, even as it drained her, and I was left in a constant state of gratitude and guilt. Tom and I would talk after Jamie's bedtime, turning over options in quiet conversation, but we always circled back to Martha's steadfast refusal to let anyone else take over. Just when I thought we had settled into our new normal with Martha looking after Jamie, the unthinkable happened. I was in the middle of a work presentation when my cell phone buzzed incessantly in my pocket. Excusing myself, I stepped out to see Martha's number on the screen. "Martha, I'm at work. Is everything okay?" I answered, my voice tight with concern. "Sarah, I can't do this today. You need to come and get Jamie. Now." Martha's voice was terse, frazzled. I felt a surge of anxiety. "What's wrong? Is Jamie all right?" "He's fine, but I'm not. I need you to come. I can't handle this," she insisted. Panic knotted my stomach. "I can't just leave work at a moment's notice, Martha. Can it wait until my lunch break?" There was a pause, and then, "You'll regret not coming," she said ominously, and hung up. My heart raced. I called back, no answer. I called the daycare to see if they could take Jamie last minute. They could, but I needed to drop him off. I rushed back to my presentation, my mind far from work. An hour later, as soon as I could, I hurried to my car, calling Martha again. Still no answer. Then, a call from an unknown number stopped me dead in my tracks. "Mrs. Thomas? This is Officer Daniels. We have Jamie here at the police station. A woman brought him in, said she couldn't care for him anymore." My breath caught in my throat. "I'll be right there." I sped to the station, thoughts whirling in chaos. Tom met me there, his face pale with worry. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas? The officer greeted us. Your son is safe. The woman, she said she was the grandmother, left him here. She claimed she was feeling unwell. Relief flooded me at the sight of Jamie in the officer's arms, unharmed. Thank you, I managed to say, taking Jamie into my embrace. Tom and I exchanged a look, the same question in our eyes. What do we do about Martha? We found her at home, sitting on the sofa, flipping through a magazine. Mom, what happened? Why did you leave Jamie at the police station? Tom's voice was a mix of anger and disbelief. Martha looked up, unfazed. I told Sarah I couldn't do it. I wasn't feeling well, and I needed rest. But you left our son with the police, I exclaimed, still holding Jamie tightly. She shrugged. I knew they'd find you. I just needed some peace and quiet. Tom ran his hands through his hair, frustration etched on his face. You can't just abandon a child, Mom, especially not your grandson. Martha sighed, a theatrical display of exhaustion. Well, I told you I needed you to come, Sarah. You should have come. The implication that this was my fault stung, and I realized then that Martha's manipulations knew no bounds. This wasn't just about her being tired or ill. It was about control. As we put Jamie to bed that night, his small frame snuggled between us. The severity of Martha's actions sank in. This was a breach of trust that couldn't be mended with apologies or excuses. We had to protect our little family, and unfortunately, that meant setting boundaries with Martha. She had taken her opposition to me too far, and we couldn't risk Jamie's safety on her whims. The morning after the police station incident, our house was steeped in a heavy silence. Tom and I sat at the kitchen table, cups of coffee untouched, while Jamie played with his toys on the floor, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. We need to talk to her, Tom. What she did. I started, the anger from the night before simmering in my voice. Tom nodded, his face grim. I know. I'll call her. He dialed Martha's number, and I could hear the faint sound of a ringtone from the living room where she slept. There was a click, and then her voice. Tom, what is it? Mom, why didn't you tell us you were feeling unwell before taking Jamie to the police? Tom's voice was steady, but I could hear the underlying strain. There was a pause on the other end. I just needed to rest. I thought they would call you immediately. Martha's voice was a mix of defensiveness and weariness. But that's not the way to handle it, Mom. You scared us to death. Tom pressed on. I didn't mean to. Martha's voice cracked, and I wasn't sure if it was genuine remorse or another act. Tom sighed. We're going to see what the officers at the station say. They mentioned there was a recording. Martha was silent again, and then, fine, do what you need to do. The call ended, and Tom and I got ready to go to the station. We needed answers. At the station, Officer Daniels greeted us. We have the footage from when she brought Jamie in. You should see this. We braced ourselves as the officer played the video. There was Martha, looking calm and collected as she handed Jamie over to the officer. Her voice was clear, devoid of distress. I can't do this anymore. He's the grandson. My heart sank. There was no sign of the sick, distressed grandmother she had claimed to be. We need a copy of this, Tom said, his voice hard. Back home, Martha was pacing the living room. When we walked in, she turned to us, a question in her eyes. We saw the footage, Martha, I said, my voice cold. You weren't sick. You weren't in distress. You lied. Martha's face fell, and then, unexpectedly, she sat down, her shoulders slumping. I couldn't handle it. I thought I could, but... Tom interrupted her. You put Jamie at risk. You lied to us, to the police. How could you? Tears streamed down Martha's face, but the theatrics didn't move us this time. I'm sorry, she whispered. But it was too late. The trust was broken. That evening, after Martha had packed her things and left, Tom, Jamie, and I sat in the living room, a tight little circle. We didn't say much, but we didn't need to. We had each other, and we would move forward, together. The truth had been painful, but it had also set us free. It had only been a few days since Martha had left when she unexpectedly reappeared at our doorstep. As if the incident had never occurred, she stood there with a smile, offering to watch Jamie. "Martha, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I've come to help with Jamie, like before. You obviously need the help," she said, brushing past me into the house. I was dumbfounded. "Martha, after what happened, you think we can just go back to how things were?" She turned to me with a defiant look. "Well, it wouldn't have happened if you had come when I called," she retorted, her words sharp like daggers. Before I could respond, Tom walked in, his face darkening at the sight of his mother. "What are you saying, Mom? That this was Sarah's fault?" Martha's eyes didn't waver. If she had been a stay-at-home mother like she should be, none of this would have happened. That's when Tom exploded, the anger and frustration that had been simmering for days finally boiling over. "How dare you? You do this out of spite for Sarah, and you put Jamie in danger because of it." Martha recoiled as if slapped, her facade crumbling. "Tom, No, Mom, I don't want to hear it. You've crossed a line. You deliberately ignored Sarah. You neglected your grandson, and for what? To prove a point?" His voice was a crescendo of outrage. She tried to interrupt, to defend herself, but Tom wouldn't have it. "I can't trust you anymore, Mom. I don't want you here. I don't want to talk to you until you realize the gravity of what you've done." Martha looked between us, the realization dawning that she had indeed gone too far. Without another word, she turned and left, the finality of the moment hanging heavy in the air. Tom turned to me, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and resolve. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I should have seen it sooner. But I promise you, Jamie's safety comes first. We come first." I nodded, the solidarity between us more potent than ever. "I know, Tom. We'll get through this, just like we always do. Together." We knew the road ahead would be without Martha, at least for the foreseeable future. It was a painful but necessary decision, a line drawn to protect our son, our family, our peace.